So I have this question for you, like very fundamental question for you, and I have a book.
So when we went and asked the lens guy that we want to shoot the film in this, he looked at us with doubt. Are you like okay? Are you guys okay?
But is there a calculation to be the biggest star in the country?
I won't talk about it.
The amount of time I have spent on his hair and the amount of time I have spent on Rukmini's hair is like 50 versus 1, because Rukmini's hairstyle is decided like that.
We started with the workshop and
Still do workshops.
You can't take yourself too seriously also and be like, I am going to give a message to society and tell them how to be.
Yes.
I am more flawed than society. So how can I can hold a mirror up.
Yeah.
That is my job as a storyteller.
and when you're shooting, it's like there is a smile on your face, but people are wondering why is he smiling.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay, the scene is coming good, all that is fine, but he has that tinge of smile in his face. Why? What is that for?
In Telugu people, there are more love failures than there are people actually. So, there is always market for that.
Sapta Sagaralu Dhaati
So, Ulindavaru Kandate, Kirik Party, Avani Sriman Narayana, Garuda Gamana Vrishabha Vahana, 777 Charlie, Hostel Hudgaru Vekakiddare, Sapta Saagaradaache Ello. How can a single person be involved in some capacity in all these great movies? Like, how is this even possible?
Well, see, I'll start with where I started from, and when we came to the industry, when I used to meet producers and I used to tell them that I want to make Ulidavaru Kannante or a film which is not made until now, we always got a reaction saying that this is a small industry, so we can't experiment here. And once I used to go home and think that how can an industry be small? Industry gives you a platform to make films, and the film what you make can be big or small. But industry is never small, as long as it can give you a platform where people, if you invest like 2 crores and if you are able to recover it, then that's it. So that was my idea. And but when I did Ulidavaru Kannante and it didn't work great in the box office, but it later on it fetched through Tamil rights and now IP rights, because I'm doing Richard Anthony. So I did films which is not of my taste, but probably this is what is working in the industry, so let me do it. And luckily that also didn't work. So when I realized that, okay, fine, so the film I believe in it didn't work. The film I don't believe in, I did that also didn't work. So there is no guarantee that any film will work or not. So let me do at least something which I believe in, and let me see what can work in the market. And that's when we did Kirik Party. And Kirik Party, in the sense, we knew it's a commercial subject, because as soon as it is a college subject, there are big audience, especially Bangalore is IT hub, and Karnataka is filled with either you become a doctor or you become a engineer, at least in our generation. So I knew there is a big market, and I had a good experience of I have had my best time during my engineering days, and I've not even used 30% of it in Kirik Party. Kirik Party happened that way, but when we made that film, we were mentally, every scene has to be entertaining. There is no one point where we should be doubtful about will it work or not. And when we leave out the content also, if the song comes out, that song has to be a hit. Okay. If if a poster comes out, that poster also people should like it. That's all promotion we did, and it created wonders.
Yes.
And then again, I wanted to get out of until then what I had written was Ulidavaru Kannante and Kirik Party, which without knowing the structure and stuff, I just wrote which comes from the heart. But then I wanted to learn then what is this structure thing, because I've been a very big follower of Christopher Nolan, Quentin Tarantino, and the way they talk about writing, that inspired me a lot in many ways. And so that's when I wrote ASN. After ASN, Charlie, all that continued, and whenever I liked a good film, not just the films which I have presented through Brahma Pictures, even otherwise, films which I have liked, like Rama Rama Re, Diya, I want a good film should never go wasted, because that is a loss for the industry. Yes. It doesn't make sense if, Ulidavaru Kannante, although it didn't work in the box office then, it is fetching me results in a lot of other ways. Today, after 10 years, if I can make Richard Anthony in that kind of a scale, that is because how Ulidaru Kannante has fetched me. So cinema will always give you result today or tomorrow, at least, as long as you make a good cinema. But at the same time, I was a actor also. I took advantage of that and set my career, even though Ulidaru Kannante didn't work. But not every filmmaker is an actor, so they don't have that. If he fails in his first film, although being good, probably he might not get his second film at all. So I didn't want any film to go wasted, especially in Kannada industry, because commercially there are filmmakers and there is an audience for that. But I believe every industry should cater to all kind of audience. Just the commercial audience doesn't work. So I started promoting every film which I liked, and if I see a potential in the trailer, I would go and watch the film, and then if I liked it, I would go all out promoting them. And so when we keep saying that we love cinema, cinema is much bigger than us. Now that shouldn't become just a statement, right? So when you say that, walk the talk, basically. Somehow it has got me till here. But at the same time, there is there's a certain kind of planning from my side, that the way I want to see my career, also, which I don't speak loudly outside, because
I would love to know more about that.
Which I don't speak loudly about it because unless I prove certain things, it will be just talks right now if I talk about it.
So even we are at even this small scale, we do come across projects. People do come to us to talk about cinema and all. It is very difficult to identify which is good and which is not good, because on paper people are confident enough to make it. So they'll say it's good. So how do you pick which is good or not? It's a subjective thing that you like this, and where is that judgment coming from for you?
So I look at from both sides, that emotionally am I connected to the characters and am I traveling with it? And once I know that I'm connected to the character, I'm traveling very well with it. Now there are places where it can have problems. Now knowing the structure, you just see, okay, if you bring the initial inciting incident after 30 minutes, then that's a problem, because people want to get inside the film, connect to the characters as soon as possible. After after they connect, and after that, once you get into the act 2, then it's okay. You can take your time, as long as it is you are traveling emotionally. It's okay. You don't have to finish the act 2 in half an hour. You can go 45 minutes also. Similarly, so I judge based on this. And also, more than anything, I completely believe in the director, who is the captain of the ship, because I believe that if he is true to the cinema and if he is completely dedicated to the cinema, then and everything else also is all right for me. Logically, everything else is all right. Then I don't see why a film can go bad.
Yes. In terms of filmography, I think Fahad Fazil from Malayalam industry is unmatchable, when it comes to kind of cinema. But he's more of an actor, much like Irfan Khan. But I think you are the one who in terms of filmography and the range and the kind of cinema and the kind of impact that is creating, who can match up to that. But what's special about you is you are also a leading man. Very Fahad is more I'm not trying to compare or make a comparison in any way, but Fahad has more flexibility when it comes to the budget wise, and how he can be an anti-villain and he can play with it. But you are a leading man. So how difficult, or how do you manage that? How do you manage being a hero, quote unquote hero, but at the same time also manage to do the kind of cinema that you are trying to do, or have done already?
So when I am into direction, my involvement in cinema is so much that probably I am completely off from the world. Okay. When I am a writer and somebody else is directing, I give some certain responsibilities to them. And since I'm a writer and probably I know the script in and out, I make sure that what I have imagined, he's not going too away from it. When I'm just an actor, I am completely dependent on the filmmaker. From after ASN, Charlie and Sapta Sagaralu Dhaati Ello, since I'm only acting, when I'm not shooting, I'm completely free. I'm doing nothing at home, and that is when the idea of presenting films and producing many more contents came because I was not doing anything other than just acting. When I'm shooting, I'm busy.
Yeah.
If I'm not shooting, I'm just sitting at home. And both, when I was shooting Charlie, we were going through the COVID problem. So Charan Raj had to take time. And same here with Sapta Sagaralu Dhaati Ello also. Because of that, I used to get more time to think about, like, watch films, and if I like it, how can we present it in Paramba.
Yeah. So like Hemant, many writers and producers all over the industries are complaining that there are no stories. Like, where are you coming up from, like, with these stories? Like, how is this, like, even from a conception level, there is this car driver guy who's going through the struggles of life. He has a girlfriend who has, like, her own aspirations. Then she has her own struggles. Then suddenly there is this thriller element that comes in. Then it goes on this whole epic journey that, like, like, where are these coming from?
No, I don't believe there are no stories. There
True,
are stories
but-
everywhere.
yes.
I really think there's a story behind every eye.
Yeah.
There is a story waiting. This is just from many things like that I've observed, many things that I have seen over a period of time, and the idea sort of taking, lodging itself in my mind for a very long period of time and evolving with time. And as I have evolved as a person, the story has also evolved with me. And that's how it's taken so many shapes and turns, shifts and turns.
So is it the time that gives the depth into the characters and like the world building aspect of it? Like
No, it's the conviction in which, see, after a certain point, you reach a critical mass where you want to tell this story.
Okay.
This is the story you want to tell. This has to be my next film.
Okay.
So once it reaches that point, even if you don't want the idea to come to you, it will keep coming.
Okay.
Like it will haunt you. It will, when you're taking a bath,
Almost impulsive.
when you're eating, when you're conversing with people, there will be one thread that is always running in your head. Not all the time, but you will keep getting ideas. So when you get sort of hooked that way, then the writing of it is just second nature. You're so involved in that world. You're so involved in it's like pushing a boulder to the top of the hill to get to that point where it takes its own momentum. The initial inertia you have to push, and it's very difficult. Once it reaches, then it just flows. It just rolls down, and everything seems obvious, and then it just presents itself in front of you.
Even stylistically, this is a very carefully crafted film where it starts off like how the character's world is very stable. I mean, not stable economically or anything, but they have a set pattern that is going on. They have bigger dreams, so the camera follows that way. But as the movie goes on, the flares come in. Stylistically, the dreamy aspect in the camera also kicks in. Like, how did this visual sort of storytelling kick in? And also, like, this is a big movie with a big star. So, like, how difficult was it for you to be reserved in the initial portions of the movie, where you have to keep the camera sort of plain and stick to the story?
See, for me, in terms of cinematically, there was absolutely no pressures at all, because he's such a liberating producer and actor.
It helps.
It helps to just that he is the way he is.
Yes.
It's a boon for any filmmaker. Any director who gets the privilege of directing him will understand that it is a beautiful experience because of how much he gives himself. He just, So I didn't have that pressure, firstly. Secondly, there was a certain discussion that happens whenever I finish writing the film. The next step is the treatment of the film. So for me, a film like this gets made has a certain flavor because of the way it's treated. So I had a discussion with my DOP Advaitha Gurumurthy. So I told him what I had in my mind. The kind I wanted to shoot on anamorphic, because I wanted to use anamorphic lenses, because I wanted to compose both actors in the same frame. And once the actors are not together, and that negative space will look nice on an anamorphic lens. So that's how we chose anamorphic as a format, as a lens format. And then we wanted the film to be very intimate at the beginning, because the story is very simple. It's about these two people who are starting their life. So a lot of the first few scenes are shot with very tight close-ups, like almost, too tight, in fact. So the whole idea was to slowly sort of loosen the frame, and then as the world becomes bigger and bigger, then we sort of, use slightly wider shots, and, we arrive at it.
It's interesting that you mentioned anamorphic lenses. Anamorphic lenses for our audience are known for their visual character, like with distinctive visual character. So like they are usually used for a more stylistic choice. But like you mentioned in the initial parts of the movie, it is made to look, we can't take our eyes off the film, but as such, there is nothing visually, quote unquote, stunning happening on screen.
Correct.
So yeah, it's super fascinating.
No, in the sense that, see, we have used master anamorphic for side A.
Okay.
We have used Hawk-V lenses for side B.
Oh, nice.
So Hawk-V gives you a lot more dirt,
Yeah.
a lot more typical anamorphic, treatment than master anamorphic.
Those are lenses from
1970s.
Oh, nice.
So when we went and asked the lens guy that we want to shoot the film in this, he looked at us with doubt. Are you guys okay? Are you guys okay?
What are you doing? Cinema?
Are you? Is this for this today's film? So we shot with that. So that adds a totally different flavor. So those are kind of things that I like to do. See, the common man, when the audience member, when I started watching films, I didn't notice any of this. I don't think 99% of people are going to notice this. But there is a subconscious element where you're going into a dark room and you have to create an experience. Now, precisely, I can't say it's because of the lens that it is creating, but it's a multiple set of factors that come together to create an experience. Now, much better filmmakers, great filmmakers before me have come and shown that it can be done with all these elements. These are all the things, all the playbooks that are available. Now, as new generational filmmakers, I have to look at those playbooks and say, okay, let's see what trick was used where and see how I can use it.
Like simplicity is very difficult to capture in cinema. So people think that there is not much craft involved. But like when a movie is great, even whatever we are reading or over reading that critics or whatever people accuse us of, but usually that should be credited to the director or the team, because like if you are making good cinema, also attribute the part that like you are getting to the cinema or filmmaker himself. So I'm stressing this is such a technically marvelous film. That's what I wanted to say. I'm sorry. But yeah, there is also this usual aspect. I don't claim myself to be a critic, but there is also this like critics not receiving the film. Like even with my Kannada is not good, but Ulidavaru Kandate is like initially when I was like going back and reading reviews of it, like they were claiming that this movie is overtly trying to be a cult film from the beginning, which eventually did become a cult film. Like how do you look at these, like especially when you were young?
No, at that point, I thought that, okay, I did a nonsense film. This is good kind of storytelling. And it had all the, it had mother sentiment, it had love story, it had a character like Richie, it had a character who was little, psych. So it had all characters there. So I was like, okay, this is a commercial film, but, told in a different way, that's all. But I've seen, a few reviews who sounded like very intellectual. And, for my film, if not for anyone, at least it was for you.
Yes.
And your review is like this. So I completely, I was shut down for some time. And that's why I, did films which is not my type. Probably, even if I had recovered the money, probably I would have started directing more films then and there. But I believe everything is destined, because otherwise I wouldn't have made Kirik Party, I wouldn't have made ASN, I wouldn't have gone that route, and I can always direct a film now. Yeah.
Like there are certain motifs and elements that a certain section of the audience, like they own it up and they connect to. So it could be symbolism, it could be like dialogues or motifs. So in most of your movies, there are these elements which are like, they're not the story is for everybody, but there are certain elements which you are directly communicating to a certain section of the audience.
Correct.
Like that's what makes them cult, is what I feel like. There are those moments in 777 Charlie, Avane Shriman Narayana, especially the ones that you have written and directed. But there are also certain visual motifs that are here in Sapta Sagaralu Dhaati as well. Is like this question is for both of you. Like, So when you're creating these motifs, are they like, what is your first impulse? Like they are aiding the movie, or like you want to create these memories? Like when an audience thinks of a movie, this is the first thing that should come up.
See, you can never make, as a content creator in today's world, everybody is a content creator.
Sure.
You can never set out and say, I'm going to make a viral video. Viral video happens.
Yes.
So cult films happen.
Okay.
So at least for me, when I speak from and knowing him also, we are very, it's like we are kids with our play toys.
Sure.
The way we make films, I think, is that we are very lost in that process. How the audience will, make what cult later is actually comes later for us, at least for me. I don't know if it's the same for you.
In the sense, see, there are few things you enjoy as a writer, which is very, even if people don't get it, it's okay. You are enjoying it.
Sure.
And when you're shooting, it's like there is a smile on your face. But people are wondering, why is he smiling?
Exactly.
Okay, the scene is coming good, all that is fine, but he has that tinge of smile in his face. Why? What is that for? But you are constantly working on something which only you know, which is very personal to you. I know, Hemanth also has done a lot of things in Sapta Saagaradaache Ello, and while shooting only, I used to enjoy. I keep thinking that what's running in his mind. So with every shot he takes, I know, how is he doing this? So yeah, it's fun. As an artist, it is fun.
Yeah.
I think that is what ends up becoming. I don't know. I don't know the route as to how it ends up becoming. How it leads itself to a permanence in the audience's mind. But I think it is a good thing that we don't know. That that route map, if we know as creators, we'll look for it every single time. So the fact that we don't know is actually a kind of nice thing.
Sure. Like, okay, so where is the symbolism in Sapta Sagaralu Dhaati coming from? The finger and like the motifs of like what is the inspiration for that?
I wanted a personal language between the two characters. See, every couple will have their own unique way of communicating, which is very unique to them.
Yes.
That is how people love is very unique to their personalities. So some people might love, in a very expressive way. Some people might not be so expressive. There's a very privateness. It's like how you eat idli. Some people dip it and eat. Some people, don't dip it and eat.
It is South Indian.
So it's like, it is there.
Yeah.
There is a certain way you love. So I wanted to create that aspect to the couple where they have their own way of showing love. And that's how those things added, the symbol and the way they look at each other.
Okay.
So those kind of things.
Amazing. Like, so there is this dialogue in Arjun Reddy where one of the characters says, Sandeep Reddy's dialogue, where like suffering is very personal, so let him suffer. So if you look at Rakshit's character, like Manu in Sapta Sagaralu Dhaati, at some point, Priya's character does confide in her mother. I'm not trying to spoil or anything, but there is this. But for Manu, there's no outlet. So was this part of the world or part of the character, or was this like something that you had intended from the beginning?
For me, the reason why I wanted to make this film is because I wanted to examine in many ways what happens to a guy whose single pillar of everything is Priya.
Oh.
Now, when you remove that, what becomes to him? What kind of a person does he become? So that is, we have shown the first event. Now the second event we have to see.
Like you have said that in one of your earlier interviews that you wanted this story to be everyone's. So that relatability. So that's why you did not give the origin story. The story is epic, but while you are writing, how did you justify, like how does Manu deserve this much love from Priya?
There is a certain innocence to Manu's character, which is very endearing in the sense of he always puts, the way he looks at Priya is really like, there is a line in the film where he says, if I look into your eyes, I feel like I want to spend my entire eternity here. He is the kind of a person who loves with careless abandon. He is so vulnerable with her. He is so fully, committed to her. And since he is an orphan, since he doesn't have a backstory, since he doesn't have a place that he comes from, and she is the only person who is at the receiving end of all that love, it is very overwhelming for her. It is, which is why his love is sort of, like the ocean, in a way, is because of the vastness of how he loves her. So that is his personality.
So speaking of that, like there's also this classist divide that you want to allude to, which is clearly evident. So was that like did you use that as a conflict for the movie, or like were you also making a larger narrative about the situation of India or Bangalore in general?
No, I think I only write about what I see around me.
Sure.
So I do see a large class divide,
Yes.
that exists in all our lives and around us. So when I write characters, I want to root them in a certain milieu. There's a popular belief that when you make a very rooted film, it has to be set in a village. That is not necessarily true.
Heartland in Bollywood, they call it
It doesn't have to be. You can't. You can make a very rooted film in a city.
Yes,
And I wanted to try and do that about my city, about Bangalore, about the things that I've seen around me. So that is what that class divide sort of is very aspirational, because the places that I actually shot, the house that Manu looks out of, there is a huge apartment,
Yes.
and right behind the apartment there's a huge slum. So I keep wondering that people who live in the slum, the light gets blocked, the sunlight gets blocked from them almost, and they constantly look at so you're always, there is an aspirational element right in front of you all the time. So that is what we wanted to sort of.
So like how did the visual, like how did the look come about?
I like Rakshit with straight hair.
Oh,
So with Godi Banda also I had straightened his hair. No, but I devised the character's look. We did a lot of testing. We spent, I think, the amount of time I have spent on his hair and the amount of time I've spent on Rukmini's hair is like 50 versus 1, because Rukmini's hairstyle was decided like that. His hairstyle took a lot of, because he is a certain type of a guy. He is a kind of a guy who will work on his hair, who will who will look stylish, who will want to, because that is the life he wants. You always try to mimic the life that you want, right? So if you're a tech geek, you're always looking at the new iPhone. If you don't give a damn about iPhones, or phones or technology, the chances of you landing on an Apple page to look for the phone is very less. So similarly, he wants a certain life, so he's trying to mimic that life.
Also, it adds on a lot to his innocence, I believe. Okay. Like if he had a short hair like this, probably that innocence wouldn't have come across.
Yeah, in the way Rakshit looks somehow, I feel when I see him with straight hair, I don't know, I just like him more.
Yeah, cinema is a very selfish endeavor. In India, there's a performative nature to suffering, right? The movie is about suffering and heartbreak. In India, there is a certain performative aspect to suffering. But this movie doesn't have any of those aspects. And also, I don't know why this character exists, but there is this character who's constantly crying and is abused later in the movie. And that character evolves. So was that character used as a juxtaposition, or was that used to create an environment about the jail, or
I think you're referring to is that boy who.
Yes.
So if he is written as Manu's alter ego.
Okay.
In the sense that if you actually see, he enters the prison, before he enters the prison, that boy enters.
Yes.
And that boy is composed with Manu constantly.
Yes.
He's seen crying. So he's the more expressive version of Manu.
Okay.
So it's a trope that I wanted to sort of subvert and use to suggest that there is a loss of innocence to Manu. So when the boy is taken into the prison and the following day he kills himself, there is a certain part of Manu that dies in the prison. There's a certain part of Manu that sort of dies with the boy. And the way the rage in Manu's eyes, the way he is becoming a different person, is the point where that boy dies. So there is a very introspective nature to Manu's character after he goes into the prison, which becomes like the large crux of the second half of the first part.
So Rakshit, how did you approach this? There's a lot of depth to the character, but you can't be over performative based on Hemanth's direction or something. So how did you try to find that balance?
So we started with the workshop.
Okay.
And
you still do workshops.
well, I am. Otherwise, I'll find it difficult to have that chemistry what me and Rooks had in the film. Probably if we didn't know each other, the kind of things he made us discuss and we had a lot of. It was like fun workshop. It is not like acting. Do you know to act or do you know? It's not like that.
We didn't discuss scenes at all.
Okay. Yeah.
It was more to do with characters and understanding.
Building the chemistry. And so there probably I knew that I was ready to start the film.
Okay.
The kind of chemistry what is required between me, between Manu and Priya, that is definitely is going to come. And the way he shoots is like he basically first 20 minutes of the film he finishes that sequence. That is not in sequence probably. That is not linear, but he finishes the 20 minutes and then he comes to the next 20 minutes and then he shoots that. He has also shot based on schedules and based on the location availability. He has gone a little here and there, but he shoots in a certain way and he builds the character inside you, and the character starts growing. So initially, I knew that this guy is a very innocent chap who believes in everyone and been madly in love with the girl. So I had to prepare only for that. And going forward, probably the character started building as we started shooting, and this is the same process what I follow. In the sense, even if I know the script, only when you perform it, you start observing your body language, the way you're talking. That actually builds that character inside you completely.
So you are saying acting is almost like something is possessing you, like it takes you out of your body.
kind of. Okay. Kind of. I can, in the sense, I can say that because I know, when I was doing every film, I was a certain character. It has changed, with time. Maybe because I am growing as a person also. Sure. But I've seen that happening inside me as well. Also, so every scene we shot, he used to come. Hemanth used to come make me and Rukmini sit, and he used to give a narration. As when he starts narrating only, I used to start feeling kind of a thing.
My friend Binu says art comes from real place. So there are certain aspects from the actors, writers, or directors' point of view, which allude to a certain thing in the actor's personal life. So maybe correct me if I'm overreading this, but there is a certain fish out of bowl kind of thing that always happens with you in all of your characters.
Yes.
So is that like the Mangalore boy coming to Bangalore, or I'll give you certain examples, right? It's part of the story also, but in Avanesti Mannarayana there's this constant dialogue, Paradesi dialogue happens. And here also even though it's for the Priya's character, but people from the coast have a certain attitude and so are you playing it to your audience, or is it?
No. Those are all coming from this side. In the Sapta Sagaralu Dhaati Ello, that dialogue has come from this side.
Okay.
And basically he's making Manu speak those dialogues because probably there are many people in Bangalore who look at Mangaloreans like that, ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಕೆಳಗಡೆ ಅವರಿಗೆ ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಕೊಬ್ಬು ಜಾಸ್ತಿ kind of a dialogue, and I've heard that a lot too. In ASN, it was more of we wanted to create a very ghost character who doesn't have a background at all, because he's
a constant motive in most of your characters. Is this the Clint Eastwood man out of nowhere spaghetti western kind of theme, or create a certain mysterious aspect about the protagonist?
I like that idea of a character being a ghost when you don't know his background and you still like it. Otherwise, if you don't give a background story for a character, it's very hard to make people like the character.
Like how?
In the sense, you have to connect to a character sympathetically.
Sure.
Emotionally, you have to connect to the character.
Yeah.
And normally, the background story is what makes you connect to the character. Or the way you start the film and the first few scenes itself becomes a background story, although it is not it didn't happen 10 years back, but it's happening now. But you start liking the character because what's happening right now. But in ASN, we wanted to try, because he's Sriman Narayana, he doesn't have Narayana doesn't have an Adi or this thing. So we wanted to play with the idea of ghost. Whatever you know about him is legend. Yeah. You are not sure if it is true or false, and you keep wondering if is he normal or what. But you still like him because he's a little quirky character.
If there's a void, everybody can fill in and have their own personal connect. And
everybody is Narayana in a certain way.
Yes, absolutely. In your earlier movies, I was alluding to earlier, there is a certain heroic aspect. You do give certain, in Sriman Narayana there are fights. In 777 Charlie also there are large dramatic outbursts, like for the fans, like who have come to see you specifically. But in Sapta Sagaralu Dhaati, like there is this scene, like I saw it in a packed theater twice, and like while it was like building up, like where this Manu character picks up the stone, like people were whistling in the anticipation that there was going to be a fight. But it was cut. So were you apprehensive at any point that no, these scenes should be there, or like no, they shouldn't be there?
No, I mean, logically it didn't make sense because, see, if he loves someone so much, then his first, whatever he's going through, that is secondary.
Okay.
His first primary objective is get out of the jail and get back to Priya. And whatever he does in the jail now, is going to prolong his this thing. So he has to stop there.
Okay.
And I think him losing out everything and going and hitting is perfect in the climax.
Amazing. So again, Hemanth, so speaking of that, like Manu has this like immeasurable love for Priya, and he could see that and he could feel that whenever he's in her presence. So, but he does take a decision for economic reasons. So how does Manu calibrate his love for her? Like being with her, or like providing her also this house and house by the beach? Like do those things also matter to him? Like
the thing is, after a certain time, societal constructs
do play a role
in the sense of, from a gender perspective, what a man is supposed to do at a certain time in the relationship. There is a preconceived idea that a man has to do something, right? And nobody is forcing him. Nobody is telling him. And Priya is not anywhere, suggesting that he has to solve this problem. She's the kind who is actually saying, let's solve it together. But he feels that he has to, do it because that is his way of making life good for her. And it is actually his very protective instinct that, he wants to provide better, he wants to make life good for her. So he's driven by love to make this decision. So I feel is a decision that a lot of men can empathize with, might not agree with, but empathize with. Like I, in his position, would also think that way. If I have the opportunity to provide a better future for my partner and for my family, I would opt for it if I have to go through a little inconvenience. Right? Which is why you have so many people traveling to another country, working in solitude, so that they can come back and have a life. It is different in different status of society. The decision as to why they go out and do something and cause inconvenience is different, but they still do it. So I'm not saying it is only men who do it. Women also do it. In this case, Manu decides to take that role. And the gender aspect comes in because he's taking that role without telling Priya, because he feels
he's the man.
He's the man, that he has to do this.
And like people going to Gulf is almost like at least 10 years back, or like whatever the timeline of the movie was, it's almost like a jail where you don't have much communication without the outside world. It makes
and
absolute
also
sense.
See, when you are of a certain class, you have the privilege of making a certain decision. When you have choices, when you have limited choices, you have to break through a few doors. And Manu thinks he can break through a door. Unfortunately, it doesn't land.
In the movie, there's not a single character which doesn't make sense. Even like they might have limited dialogue, they might have limited scope as far as the story of the movie is concerned, but they do feel like real characters. Example, the boy, the brother, nobody is treating him or treating with empathy, even though mother and the sister love him, but they are like very strict with him. But Manu shows Manu is very empathetic to him, kind to him. So he's very loyal to Manu. I'm not going to tell you how he's loyal to Manu. So that boy is very real. Even Pavitra Garu, who's the mother of the character Priya, so she's also very real, relatable. She's coming from a real place. Who's a real person, who's going through life. She's feeling the emotions, but she's also practical because she had to raise two children on her own. So that realism also kicks in, and she in a dramatic way changes the arc of the characters. So where are these small characters coming from? Do you build a world for them separately or bring them into the world of Manu, or if
I'm stealing from life,
okay,
and taking characters around from real people,
Yeah.
then I have to make sure that, they stay true to the real world.
Sure.
If they start doing unrealistic things without a strong motivation, right? If you're compelled to do something very dramatic, then it makes sense.
Yeah.
So otherwise, I feel the more you humanize them, the more the more it connects, the more the character's perspective becomes less filmy. When I was working, I've written with Gundu Shetty, my co-writer, and we always are trying to root the film into a certain believability. Yeah. We are trying to sell a belief. This is a story of somebody that you know. Yeah. That is why Manu and Priya, I suppose, feel like you know them, like you are part of their world, because we have seen, I've seen Manu Priya around me, which is why, it becomes very important that all the other characters also feel like they are characters from real space, as opposed to them being filmy characters. Yeah. So wherever I felt there were filmy elements to it, I started, working on it to try and root it as much as possible in a believable way.
You've spoken about love for cinema and cinema being an experience. And you also extensively talked about cinema being believable and realistic. So it has to be special. Like they have to feel like they're watching a spectacle. Correct. Because this is a closed room, they're sitting with strangers. Like they don't know what's happening. So it has to be there has to be such a push for somebody to take a break out of their life.
Correct.
And also to give it an experience, to make it a worthwhile experience, not just for that film, but also for them to go and watch the next film. Mm-hmm. So where are you finding this balance?
So I understand where you're coming from, because cinema today is, it is grand spectacle.
Yes.
That is the perception of it from a large part of the trade, primarily.
Absolutely.
But if you look at film as an experience, you are investing in stories.
Yes.
And stories have infinite depth.
Absolutely.
There is infinite room for people to get lost. Stories can have infinite depth. Not all stories necessarily have, and need to also. You are trying to take people into another world where you experience somebody else's romance for a brief period of time, where you feel so in love and you're so wanting that they, meet, and why are you doing that? Yeah. The reason why you want, when the stories that have, if you look at Romeo and Juliet, if you look at the greatest love stories which have stayed over millennia, the reason why they stay in our minds is because thousands of people have wanted them to be together. There's a certain aspirational element to romance. Yeah. So the idea is not to mimic it, but the idea is to take the infinite power of creating emotions and making the audience go through that experience. Make what Priya feels, what Manu feels, and leave them in between that. And I think that is a spectacle. I think that is not something that you can experience on a phone. You have, because the sound, the picture, the music, and to experience it with so many people, to feel with so many people, is the beauty of cinema.
Yeah. Do you think tragedy is more spectacular than a good ending?
No, not necessarily.
Also, tragedy can also be as spectacular.
Yeah. So Rakshit, before moving on to side B, I would like to know something about your career. I don't know if you are comfortable speaking about that. But is there a calculation? It's not a bad thing to be the biggest star in the country or having that aspiration. Do you have that aspiration?
I won't talk about it.
Because me and my partner Beanbag, we are obsessed about cinema, and we are also obsessed about Indian cinema. We also watch cinema worldwide, but Indian cinema is something that we love and we want to make and we want to be part of. So for good or bad, heroes is what makes Indian cinema work. And if you are looking, we feel like what Rajni sir or SRK had, the career arc that they've had, they did not start out as, I'm not trying to make a comparison on anything, but from a layman perspective, they became characters that lived in audience's heart before they were stars, before they have decided to the big mainstream mass cinema. Is that something that you're trying to do? Do you want to stay in people's mind? Because you are, you are in my mind every day.
I want to be someone who is relatable. Okay. Who, if you look at my career graph, right from the first film, from nothingness with zero money in your hand, what I've earned is only through cinema. And so cinema has given me this stature, and even if it gives me better stature and gives me more love from film, the only result is I can only make good films.
Absolutely.
I can be I can empower many more filmmakers because of that. So and yeah.
No, in the sense, see, the thing is, there is no the beauty of cinema, at least as a business that I understand. There's not only one way to make
Yes.
a
But
$1 billion
unfortunately,
film. Like,
people don't.
no, but
think of it
that's
like
the
that.
thing is,
Yeah.
the thing is, the route exists.
Yes.
There are multiple ways to make like Oppenheimer making 900 million is unheard of.
Absolutely.
Barbie making $1 billion is unheard of.
Yeah.
But it is happening in the West.
Yes.
It is. We have also had Dangal, which made
Yes.
like a ridiculous amount of money.
Absolutely.
It was not a film that was tent-poling on a certain image of the hero. It had a heroic element, but it is possible.
Yeah.
So there are multiple ways to climb the Everest.
Yes.
The goal, I think, is to get to the Everest.
That was my question. And like, because we see that, and it's such a heartening experience to see somebody who's going there without actually compromising the audience for for your personal endeavor. Because nobody wants to be a filmmaker, nobody wants to be an actor without having a certain selfish note. Because like, this is from an ego point of view, right? Like, I want to tell a story. Why? Because I'm like, there is this certain impulsive aspect as well, but there is also this like, I want to tell a story. There's a certain ego, and that is where these egos get larger than life, and that is where the cinema is sacrificed. And it's beautiful that somebody's trying. I mean, you have not accepted that you're trying to do that, but from our reading, who has the potential to be there and in the right way, and the cinema is also not compromised in the path.
In a sense,
Yeah.
one thing is I'm very sure about is I'll never become. I would never want to be bigger than the cinema itself.
Yeah.
I will be working for cinema. Whatever my dream is, it will be under cinema. So I have curbed my ego there, right there. So only when I become bigger than cinema is when I know that there is still ego. So that is my reality check all the time. That I can't be bigger than this. And when it comes to Paramba Studios or Paramba Pictures also, I am an employee there. I am not an owner there.
How do you differentiate those things?
in the sense, I have never touched the money which Paramba Studios or Pictures made for personal reason. Whatever money it has made, it has stayed there and is used for making more films.
Okay.
Whatever I make as an actor is mine.
Okay.
And even if I make a film in Paramba Pictures, and if I have not taken the remuneration because it's my own this thing, but I know what is my remuneration, I'll take it as a share. Once, so the share which belongs to Paramba Studios will go there. The share which belongs to as an actor, what I invested, it will come to me.
Yeah.
So I have a very clear-cut definition there.
So where does this impulse come from for enabling cinema?
That is because I've told you, when I came to the industry, they used to say that, this is a small industry, this is a small industry. And for me, see, although, when I grew up in Udupi, the school where I went, it was an English medium school, but the teacher who taught us English, he was a Kannada Pandit. So I think right from there, that love for Kannada developed very strongly inside me. And see, the idea of when we were making films, and when I look at this place and the way how cinema is a culture here, that is a dream if I can make it in Karnataka. And obviously it's not I can't do it alone, but my part, I believe in karma a lot. So I've taken an opportunity in using this platform to make my films. So I need to give back. So when I think about my career, I don't think just about my career. I think about Paramba Studios also. So I think about Kannada films also, and all put together, how do we grow is the idea.
Yeah. Again, going back to my partner, he says that you've come from this point of view of that at some level the language itself is under threat in the mainstream art.
In the mainstream,
in the mainstream art.
Yes, in the mainstream art at one point, yes, because see, if you look at Malayalam industry, they used to make films in Malayalam of all the dialects.
Yes.
In Tamil, even Telugu. But whereas in Karnataka, we only explored one or two dialects, and we didn't explore the rest of them. And now, see, I believe that cinema should be a documentary for the future.
Cinema and journalism are real-time history that we're.
Exactly. The 50 years down the line, when people want to know how Karnataka was 50 years back, because that's our foundation,
Yes,
right?
documentation.
So when you watch the film, you should get at least a certain picture. What kind of characters were there? What kind of environment was there around? And if we are not able to do that, and if you only think about money and just keep doing, let's do that also. And I'm sure 50 years down the line, people will think and that this doesn't make sense. So I'll only enjoy it, but not. This is not real.
Yeah. It's like junk food.
Huh.
It's fun while you're eating it, but there's no nutritional value. After.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But there are certain films which also should be catered. I mean, there are audience for these films also, which at least also stay as a documentary for the future generation.
So, but you're also like whenever I hear you talking about your career or the kind of movie that you're making, there's always a larger timeline. You're not working in like 1 year, 2 year, and especially for an actor where age is premium, where everybody wants to be young and young looking. You are working at a much larger timeline. Like
I'm a story writer, so
yeah.
I'm writing a story.
Okay, so you're writing your own story.
Picture.
Yes.
No, but to add to that, I have to say that since the time I've known him from Godivanna, the vision that he had for Paramba pictures and how he wanted, to have a place.
Yes.
See, there is a sense of vacuum for the kind of stories that we want to make.
Yes.
There is a selfishness
Absolutely.
in doing this for him and for by association for me also, is that we want the film to do really well because we want more such films to come out. We want a certain kind of films also to. It is not against a certain kind of cinema.
Absolutely.
It is not
Coexistence.
It is about coexistence. Yes. It's about fighting for what you can do.
Yes.
I know to make cinema a certain way. Yeah. There are many people like me who know to make cinema a certain way. Yes. They must be able to make it.
Yes.
The audience need to, we need to constantly win the faith of the audience with every film.
Yeah.
It is our, like when I say I'm a Kannada filmmaker, it's a matter of huge pride for me because I'm representing my language.
Yes.
So when I'm representing my language, I want to put like what we can do for
best.
other people to, from outside to say, oh, you guys are doing this. That is awesome. That is what we want to do. And that is something that even in 2016, when I did Godivanna, almost 10 years back, he had this vision. So he was writing this bigger picture from then.
Yes.
So which is
I don't
amazing.
think it could have come up in a day. It was a much larger plan. Yeah. So like you were alluding to earlier, is there some sort of spiritual aspect as well, like giving back and your existence? And you have spoken about you being a believer in Advaitha and all. I'm not probing for personal questions here, but does this also play a role in your life, in your choices? Yeah.
Because I see life and cinema together, going parallel for me. Because what is life? Life is about learning.
Yes.
And when you're 24 hours thinking about cinema, so you have to. There's only one option. You have to learn everything here. And so far, cinema has helped me to grow as a person. With every film, it has definitely helped. And for me, cinema is very spiritual.
Yeah, at a larger level as well. So, regardless of politics, people in general were thinking, like people all over India, in 2016-17 or somewhere, people have come to this conclusion, generally. I mean, it could be a cliche, but generally they've come to this conclusion that cinema is not representative of me. Cinema is only being aspirational. It is not representing my culture, my way of living, my way of thinking. That's where the larger audience found Telugu cinema and Kannada cinema.
I believe cinema is more than aspiration, it should be inspiration, right?
Yeah.
Because there is an art form which is so, the reach of the art form is like immense. There is nothing else which can reach like an art form.
Yes.
And through it, you can actually not give a conclusion that this is what you should do, this is not, but show them a scenario where you judge what is right and what is...
It's like a very beautiful social experiment.
Yeah.
When you think about it. Because you are constantly putting people through stories and making them decision makers.
Yes.
So it is a glorified social experiment, which is an experience.
Is that scary, like being a creator yourself?
No, if you take it too seriously,
Okay.
then it is scary. And also, you can't take yourself too seriously also, and be like, I am going to give a message to society and tell them
And
how to
change.
be.
Yes.
I am more flawed than society.
Yes.
So how can I can hold a mirror up.
Yeah.
That is my job as a storyteller.
Amazing. So, like, again, speaking of the industry at large, this year, Kannada, like, I've a lot of friends from Bangalore and Karnataka. They feel like cinema at large is not doing well because one or two, even though Kannada cinema is making waves and Telugu cinema is also making waves, we only get to hear about the big, large movies. But an ecosystem cannot survive on these big tentpole movies. There should be a constant mediocre movies where people can go watch every weekend or something. So do you, like, how do we find this balance?
First of all, we need more filmmakers who are sensible. And especially if I have to speak about Kannada cinema, because rest of the industries, I see a lot of actors, a lot of big stars.
Yes.
But the number of stars in Kannada are too less that way. I mean, it should increase. That's how industry can grow, and it has to keep churning good films. So definitely there are more filmmakers, more writers, more educated writers should come to the industry and start working.
And we have to demand the audience. We have to compel the audience to come and watch the film in the theaters. Like,
How do we do that?
see, we have lost the audience by making a lot of bad cinema for many years. There are a lot of people within my own circle who stopped going to the theaters because the filmmakers alienated them by choosing to tell only one type of stories, be it through remakes or through a certain brand of stories. So to get them back, we have to constantly put work out there, and I can only make one film at a time. So there has to be, he has to make one film, I have to make one. There are 50, 60 filmmakers making films. Then you'll have an influx of good films coming in. Then people will, vote with their money.
Yeah.
This is a business where people need to vote with their money. So
Absolutely. Hopefully people are hearing, and like we definitely, I also feel like when like Tamil cinema is having this like outbursts of creative filmmakers, but in Telugu, like, we are not seeing that many young filmmakers, and I'm sure like Kannada is also going through that.
I think it's cyclical.
Yeah.
I think every industry, like somebody had written off Bollywood like 8 months ago. They're delivering one hit after another hit. So it is a cyclical thing. I think it will.
Yes.
It's hopefully.
But good cinema will only inspire more people.
Yeah.
So, like, again, bringing it back to Sapta Sagaralu Dhaati. So why did it take this long for this movie to come? Like, Avane Sriman Narayana and 777 Charlie had a simultaneous Telugu release as well.
So 777 Charlie, it had a market across the country because dog lovers are everywhere.
It was hard.
So there was no second thought about it. This cinema, we wanted to go slowly because it is a slow poison. There might be people who might not like the film in the first watch. In the second watch, they might start liking it even more because at least it that's the impression what I got. And also Hemanth didn't get too many contents out. He got 2 songs out, which is only lyrical video with photos of Manu and Priya. That only clicked so much for us, and then the trailer. And trailer also was not. It was very hatke. It was not something which we have seen. Not regular trailer at all. So we were very clear that let's not over publicize. Let's see first of all, because the first week our audience are going to come. Absolutely. People who are going to like this film for sure. They're already following it, and they are going to come for sure. And our audience will give a good word of mouth, and they are going to go and talk to people who think that this is their kind of film. So that was the strategy, and we knew that slowly it will travel to I know the first state it is going to travel is Andhra and Telangana, because the kind of reception what we got for Charlie, and any good film, there is a certain kind of audience here, especially if it is emotional and it's a love story and all. People are going go crazy.
I always say there are more love failures. Like in Telugu people, there are more love failure, then there are people actually. So, there's always market for that.
Yeah, and then we knew that it was going to travel to Malayalam. So now we are getting a result there also. 28th we are releasing in Malayalam after 22nd year. Tamil and Hindi, let's see. You know, we are not still aiming for that. But if the film asks for it, then it will travel.
See, from an audience perspective, Malayalam cinema has been releasing in Hyderabad and other cities for a long time. But so we always have this discussion, right? Malayalam cinema makes a lot of noise on Twitter and social media. And Tovino Thomas recently for 2018, he came out and he made this statement. You watching my movie after it is on OTT or watching it through Telegram or something is not going to do me any favors. You have to watch it in theaters. But me and like my partner Bean Bag, we always feel like Kannada cinema is being watched by even Telugu audience in theater. Because like Garuda Gamana, whatever in limited release, it did really well because I saw it multiple times and there was audience every time. And Sapta Sagar, all the shows I watched in packed houses. 777 Charlie was the same. So I feel like maybe, I don't know business, but it should have a wider release because I'm not trying to put down Malayalam cinema in any way, but Malayalam cinema has is appealing to a certain class. But Kannada cinema, like Telugu cinema, only good cinema is releasing here, but that cinema has the ability to appeal to a wider audience. So I think Kannada cinema should push.
In the sense, I mean, it depends on the film probably. Sure. We are using the same strategy what we use in Karnataka. Okay. And so there is a certain belief in the kind of films we make, and we believe that cinema asks it will take what it wants.
Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah.
So what's your opinion on dubbing movies?
See, I would like people to watch the film in original language, but I understand that few people don't want to read the subtitles and they miss what's happening on bigger screen. The best thing is have both the options. Make the original language also release and dub it and release that also, so that both audience are satisfied. I know a lot of people who don't want to watch dubbed films, but at the same time, see, today we are in a time where we watch Narcos. We don't know the language. Half the thing is in English, but half the thing is in Spanish. And yet we are watching it. We are watching a lot of films which, although we don't know the language, and this is what is going to happen. It's not just India. I believe the world is going to open up like that. You can make a film which can cater to the whole world, and that's the beauty, right? Like one film, like they used to say before that one Friday can change a star's future. The same way, one Friday now can change to a world perspective. Yes. Before it was regional, or if it is a Hindi film, then probably in India. But now it is a world. World is your market. Yeah. So it's beautiful time, and I believe let's go for it.
Absolutely. And like I've been hearing from the team that the dubbing has been done well. Like, so was the output to your satisfaction?
Yes, in the sense that the Telugu audience should watch and tell if it is up to their satisfaction, because I'm not a native Telugu speaker. So, but what I was very particular about is the nuance of language and performance to the voice. Yeah. There's a certain aspect of dubbing which, if it is not done well, kills the film. Yeah. So this is something that we have, whether the transliteration or the language, the way the characters speak, it is something that I have asked the dubbing people to be very particular about, and they've done a very good job. The team has done a very good job. So hopefully it translates. Yeah.
For the people that don't know, this is a two-part movie, side A and side B. So it's one of our common themes where we discuss nostalgia. People, there is also this culture of re-releases, if you're unaware, where big films that have done well in the past are getting re-releases and they are doing really well. So at some point it is indicative that audiences and industry alike have accepted that this is the best that we have to offer. Because the anticipation is more about the re-releases than the movies that are going to come out, in a way of speaking. But Sapta Saagaradaache Ello does have nostalgic elements, but it is creating something new. So how did you find that nostalgia usually kills creativity is what they say, because you are yearning. I mean, I don't know, you say, how did you balance those things?
I don't think nostalgia kills
Okay.
creativity. I think it can, you run the risk of getting too lost in that emotional vortex. But for me, I feel memories and nostalgia can also be very powerful in terms of how you know, see, life is like a book with many chapters. Each person you meet is a chapter, and the whole story makes sense only when all the chapters, you know, are like, it's like that, right? I mean, to simply put it. So you have to go through different stories, you know, and that is Sapta for me. So it is not that only nostalgia exists. It's about how it is Manu's life story, and side B is indicative of that in terms of, you know, how you carry forward a relationship, how carry forward a failed relationship, carry forward your loss, carry forward different elements to you, and how you adapt with time and space.
Yeah. So side B is it about grief, or is it the predominant theme, is it going to be about revenge?
It's not an out and out revenge film.
Okay.
That much I can tell you. But it is a complex film.
Okay.
It is definitely, as Sapta, side A was written in a very pure way, without any sort of very liberated way. Side B is also written liberated in a very, you know, with a lot of freedom.
Yeah.
And I've made the film exactly like how I wanted to make it. So,
But again, speaking to you, Rakshit, so side B does seem to have those kind of massier moments from the glimpse of that whatever we
does,
had to
yes.
see. So like, is that like you giving back to your hardcore fans?
No,
Which includes me as well.
I like the variation of, you know, that innocent Manu, and this Manu is also he's actually innocent. If you look at the film, you will know that a lot of places his innocence comes across, but he's only innocent, you know, with people he loves. He's learned to handle people who doesn't mean anything to him, and with them he knows how to handle them.
Yeah. That's it, guys. Do watch Sapta Sagaralu Dhaati on 22nd September. This Friday. It's a great film. And that's all from my side with the future biggest star of the country. Even though he doesn't accept it, that's how I see him. Rakshit Shetty and the very talented Hemanth M. So thank you, guys. Thank you for your time.
thank you so much. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you.